this tachometer housing, which requires a 10mm socket or spanner. Rather a tatty looking bolt. Might spray that silver. It looks well weathered. It's not a very warm day. Don't have a very good reputation for plastic on a cold day, me. Usually breaks. Well, she is tight. One fight after another with this bike. Even the tachometer is putting up a fight. Well, yeah, it's not coming very fast, is it? It's lifted about a millimetre. Oh, it's lifted about a millimetre. Let's give it a bit more juice. So I'm gripping it by the threads and trying to push it round with the thin bit. I think the WD-40 could be helping because it's come up another millimetre. Could be that O-ring that was gripping, and it's also covered in sort of dirt, plenty of dirt there. Welcome back to the Peter H channel. Hopefully you just saw an excerpt of me removing the tachometer gear out of the Yamaha DT125R motor block. Well, this was a 6-minute struggle this time. I think the O-ring was gripping. There's plenty of dirt in there. So the tachometer gear, whoops, it just lifts out. There's some crud at the back there. I'm not sure that turns up on video. It looks a little like rust. Not like rust. And I've got some, seems to be some wear marks on this tachometer gear. And it's a little bit rusty where it's exposed to the elements down that hole. Which is strange. It might have spent some time without a tachometer cable in it, if that's the case, because you would think that it would have been shrouded by the tachometer cable shrouding crimp. Oh, shut up there. I don't know what it's called. Okay. Now there's one more thrust washer. This is the thrust washer that didn't come off in an earlier video, and I'm actually gonna mark that one because it's got wear. It's very worn on the back. I want it to go around the same way. I'll just put a couple of dots on there. A couple of 3 dots. A couple of 3 Sharpie dots. Right, I'm going to have to put those in a safe place. So I'm now storing the nylon drive gear, the vertical driven tachometer gear, the 2 thrust washers, there are 2 in there, and the plastic housing with the O-ring is the other thrust washer, and that's the securing nut, which really is a bit weathered, and they're all safe and clean. Yeah, so these are the screws I'm talking about. I just don't want to be working with the motor block this side up, resting on these screws, because I don't think these screws are designed to be load bearing. So I'm just going to quickly draw a template, and I'll probably just edit this bit together. There's a sort of U shape there. There's that clutch thing. That one will be the one we take out first. And they're really rather messy. They've got to go for it clean, these screws. And there's a lot of different ones. This one's an Allen head. That one's an Allen head, but it's got a stainless steel finish, and it's also domed. This one's a screw. And there's about 3 different types. And that's a bit odd, really. I must admit. It does obviously show it's been worked on before. In fact, I think some of these screws were missing, because this one's a new one. I seem to remember actually as a part of a video, and it was one of the last batches of bits I got from Yam Bits. I read in a manual somewhere that when these screws do give up on you, it's a good idea to change them to hex heads. But I'm a bit of a stickler for tradition. I think, you know, if they came with these Phillips PH3s, they can stick with PH3s. Hopefully later today we'll get rid of the gear shift. Right, so there's my collection of screws. I'm going to go put those in a safe place for the left cover and get on with removing the selector assembly. So I've been cleaning my gear selector shaft, and understand there can be 1 or 2 things get caught up with this shaft, and you don't necessarily want anything other than the selector shaft to come out. Now it's going to get a bit tricky because I'm pulling it through the seal at that point. Okay, here we are, and that's your selector shaft. I didn't check the spring. I mean, this actually worked very well before this stripped down, so I know everything apart from that seal, I think, is alright. Okay, I just made that look quite easy, but you've got to watch that your selector fork shaft, which is this bit, if you pull that out, the interior selector forks can fall out of place, that would leave you no choice but to split the crankcase open to put it all back together again. But I'm going to do that anyway, but I'm just saying it didn't happen this time anyway. But you can sometimes hold that and pull the gear selector shaft out. So next is the D10 arm, and there's a heavy spring here apparently, and I'm just making sure I know where everything is before I undo this restraining bolt. Now it's there. I can't see the other end. Oh, the other end of the spring. It's right down here. The other end of the spring is here. Probably going to change cameras in a minute so we can get a better resolution. So I'm looking at my Yamaha DT125R gear selector arm, and this is a spring. You can see the coils of the spring. This is the D10 arm. It's got a little sort of circle riveted on it, and way down here is a spring, and I think it's seated in this recess. And the other end of the spring is here. And you've got one end here and one end there, and let's see, the circle just fits in these parts of the selector forks, or the selector fork drum end, whatever. Okay, the specified torque rating is 10 foot-pounds. It's a 10 mil, and I'm gonna undo it gently, and then hopefully the D10 arm, the bolt and the spring will just won't get stuck under this selector drum, and the whole thing should just gently slide out. But I'm going to wait for this spring tension to come on down while I undo it, and we'll see how that goes. And here we go with the D10 arm. Should be 10 foot-pounds. Get comfortable. Oh yeah. Finally something actually came undone on this motor without a fight. It's always sad when you've got to take something off your motor and it actually works. I mean, the gearbox and the clutch, you know, were fine after a little bit of fettling, but of course we've got to undo it all and get to the right hand oil seal now, because that is definitely flapping. Hopefully this isn't going to spin round and whack a hole in the right, something changed. Don't like spring tension, do you? And I don't know whether it's going to come pinging off or what. Ratchet would be a good idea. Trying to do it in view of the camera here. Quite a sharp little bugger and all. Oops. Oh, I'll probably change the gear now. taken one of these off before, so I don't really know what to expect. I mean, I don't know whether the spring tension has actually been released already. Okay, that's it. Now, I don't know how I'm going to get that back on. It's not a sharp thing, it's just a large wheel. That's your detent. Well, yeah, a few iron filings coming out there, that's not very good. Okay, welcome back to the Peter H channel. I've got to remove the idler gear. Getting ready to slacken off some crankcase splitting. Let me just walk you through what we've got here. Is 2 bits of wood, and what we've got here is 1 bit of wood, and we've got some clearance. There's the crank and there's the drive, so we're safely above all that. So we're going to get on with removing this idler gear. This is as close in as I could get you for the idler gear removal. I've had these circlip removers now for quite a while, and can't remember where I got them. It might have been off eBay, and they're alright. Sometimes the holes in the circlip aren't quite big enough. But that one was. So that's the first of the circlips. Apparently these are all interchangeable, the thrust washers and the circlips, so there's no need to mark these up. Okay, now I should have to remove the circlip as well on this. Okay, otherwise I guess we won't get the crankcase apart. This is the final thing. Bugger. That's what I mean. Sometimes it just slips out the hole. The circlip. It's a bit of a gouge job. Here we are. That's your shaft. When the motor's this way up, it doesn't need 2 bits, it just needs these. Well, when I say 2 bits, obviously it needs 2 bits, 1 on each side, but it doesn't need 2 bits here, just the 1. And I've been going around inspecting the crankcase. These are for the stator, but the crankcase screw bolts, which are all around. One of them, which I don't know whether it's visible, let me put that in a visible position. This is one I put in that was missing when I first got the motor. And there's some damage there. It needs to be addressed later on. So I'm just making sure there's no dirt inside the P3s with a sort of little screwdriver and toothbrush. Plenty of WD-40. And I was turning it over, and there does seem to be something rattling around in the motor now, which is a bit disconcerting. You can hear it. Oh, it's fallen out, whatever it was. It looks like something's actually broken. Something's actually broken. It looks like part of a selector fork or drum. So that's a bit funny, because nothing actually got forced. So it must have been sort of ready to break. Ready break. Maybe it's been broken a long time, I don't know. I'm not that au fait with engine forensics. But it's definitely part of a selector fork, and it's definitely broken. And it just fell out, which is a shame, because the gearbox was working quite well. Anyway, so that's a big disappointment. Well, what we have is we have to make sure this is in the correct rotation to come through. And you have to turn this around. I'm glad that fell out because it was getting on my nerves. I was wondering what it was. Anyway, so now I'm looking at these P3s. I must say I am disappointed about that. Yeah, there's some tricky ones. I see one of these pieces of wood is better than another for holding the shaft clear of the bench. This one and this one definitely need it clean. I'm certainly not going to get the screw head in there clearly. Whoops, sorry about that. Some jizzer would have been a good idea. Some gunk. I was going to give it a gunk bath. And I'm going to have to find out what broke. I don't know how it broke because literally I filmed everything and nothing got forced, unless it was all that hammering to get that silly lock washer undone. That looks like a new one. So there's 1, 2, 3 in there, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Looks like there's 11 of these. 11 potential nightmares. So some of these screws, crankcase screws, they look newer than other ones. There's one. But I will say that all of them are in really good condition. They don't look like they've been forced at all, ever. I was looking really closely for signs of sort of stressing. Man, that's quite amazing. So it wasn't very well explained. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then in the middle 9, 10, 11. So there's the 11 crankcase half screw bolts, and these have been they've been WD-40'd overnight. I guess they're thread locked. They're all in pretty good condition actually. I've seen a lot worse than this, and also I've seen mixtures. My DT50's got screw bolts and Allen head bolts mixed up, but these look like they're either new put in as a kit or they've never been out before. And let's see if they start to come out. Actually, there was the first one I wanted to undo was this one, but I guess as long as you're in a diagonal pattern, it doesn't matter. Right, well, I'm gonna get busy with a hammer. You get the idea though. Break it down, hammer time. Not so much of the breaking it down, but I'm gonna need ear defenders, you know, because that one's really tricky because of the angles of the case. Like this one here, it's actually touching the impact driver, so it's a bit of a worry really. But I think these are even budging. They're not even close to budging. got any joy. Really, this one should come undone first, I would have thought, because it's right in the centre. Maybe it should come undone last. That's not real. Hitting it like this is not real. They're not even budging. Well, I've got to tell you now that that was a fight. I've never known anything like it. I had to leave it overnight. WD-40, and I've never had to hammer so much stuff with an impact driver, but they're now all loose. I spared you the pain of watching me go 9 times out of 10 with the impact driver. Every single one needed to be whacked for about 2 or 3 minutes at least. Probably more like, you know, so it was at least half an hour to get to this stage where they're all loose. The 11 crank case screws, screw bolts, they're all loose. None of them are stripped out. So like I say, I've got all of the 11 crankcase screw bolts loose, and I've put together a template, and as they're all loose, apart from this one which seems to be, it's probably because it was stuck under there. It's loose now. Well, I'm going to start taking them out. This is the one that was the newest. Oops. Isn't that typical? It's a total waste of film. Say that. It's the newest head. Look at that. Looks freaking brand new. Anyway, so that goes inside the crank. Inside the sort of, I'll call that inside. I'll work out what goes in there in a minute. It's the magneto flywheel. It's behind the stator. So that one goes in behind the stator. And then the next one is right under there. Let's have a look at this one. Oh, look at that. That one's like brand new and all. The head's a little bit rusty. Whoops, sorry about that. Well, when I took my DT50 apart, these were really like, they looked ancient. And DT was the same, 50 was the same age. And they've absolutely aged. That one, it's got some, I think that must be threadlock residue, that black stuff. Anyway, that's the last of the behind the stator. I'm going to go right down the other end now, up by the mounting bolts, the mounting points. Look at that, brand new looking. The head's a bit rusty, but I think that one's possibly shown on the elements. Go up to the top now. So this one's by the gear lifter, the clutch cable lift mechanism, the lifter. Wow, that's not bad either. Weathered on the top, new looking shank. Oops. Sprocket top. Go right outside the front of it now. This is the last one I undid. Oh no, it wasn't. No, the last one I undid was a bit of a pig, and I had to hit it for about 5 minutes, and the impact driver only just fit in the casting. There we are, that one's looking pretty new too. Stud. I'm going to get that one. This was the last one because it's difficult to get the impact driver in there. Oops, it's a bit... Yeah, what it is, the impact driver won't rotate in the casting given, so you have to keep taking it out, putting it in again, otherwise it jams here. And I was really worried I was going to whack that off, because it didn't half take some hitting. Some of the neighbours, I think they thought it was the bloody end of the world sort of thing. Well, this one, I might have to edit this down and all. Well, there it is again, rusty head, nice looking shank. I'm really pleased about that. I mean, one of the reasons I'm pleased is that if the heads are rusty, it means they're not stainless steel. Right, everybody, getting so excited I've dropped my thingy, dropped my impact driver. Yep, nice shank, shame about the head. Okay, that's the neutral light, is it not? So I can put N on my thing, neutral light. That goes just below that. I'm going to have a bit of a break after this. I'm not going to go straight into splitting the crankcases, because I want the whole thing to relax after this trauma of banging. You know, it's just a psychological thing really. I know I've got one more to do. Gosh, that one's similar. Nice shank, shame about the head. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And there's 2 more. Oh yeah, one over here. I'll do that one last. This is the one that this was missing when I got this motor, so I've put this one in. I know it's brand new. I know it won't turn up anything other than the specified torque. Quite a long one. That one is strangely the most grotty of them all so far. Deep damaged. Right, one more. That's for the 11th. Now I don't know whether taking the neutral light out is, you have to do that to get the cranks cases apart. Don't know. What I'll do is just see if it's going to fall apart on me, or whether I have to get a splitter tool out. I have got a splitter tool, don't really want to use it. Yep, same as always. Nice head, shame about. Nice shank. Head slightly funny. Right. There. Crank case. Oh, I figured I may as well film this. There's no way I like hitting these casings with a hammer, because they're likely just to drop apart on you. Now I noticed earlier there's take you in there. There's Hylamar or whatever the it's like Hylamar crankcase seal. There's a bit of it there, so they're likely to be sticking together, and that might prove a bit of a bond. Which is why you know sometimes recommended to hit them with a bleeding hammer, but I ain't into that. I hated hitting this thing with a hammer earlier. Blooming hell, I was making a racket. It was echoing right round the neighbourhood. So the crank cases are still together. I'm thinking of removing this right hand oil seal baffle or cover, right hand oil seal cover. That's I was perusing, sorry about that, I was perusing the how to put this thing back together manual, and it says use thread lock on all these baffles, so that will be thread locked. When I haven't treated that with any WD-40 yet, so I thought it was going to be quite easy, but it's not. This is the seal where the two are joined together, and well, I was convinced that there was some sort of microscopic opening beginning to appear, but I must have been mistaken. I'm going to try and I've sprayed it with some WD-40 and given it time to rest. I don't want to destroy the top of the bolt by slipping off, so there's less and less plastic on this thing now. I'm going to try and encourage it with a bit of heat. The sound there could be the WD-40 coming off. Could be gasket seal, or not gasket seal, the other thing, thread lock. Could just be WD-40 boiling underneath the baffle plate. I don't like doing that, obviously, on an aluminium casting, so there's no need to tell me about it. Warping, uneven heating, all the rest of it. But I mean, if you're going to use thread lock on your baffle plate screws, what can I say? The thread lock I use doesn't even set solid. The specified torque rating for this is under, well, it's under 15 foot-pounds. It's something like 5, between 5, 7 or 10, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it shouldn't be like as solid as a rock like this. I'm going to have to give it a few whacks with the impact driver. Sounded like something was moving. Whoops, sorry about that. No, bugger me, that's in there, isn't it? Hey, it's another fight. Another fight. Oh. Another fight. I think I'm going to go and call it a day. Quite a lot of cursing is what it took. A lot of swearing at it. Made a lot of enemies of my neighbours. Oh my goodness. Still, on the plus side, it didn't totally destroy the head of the thing. It must have a bit of scarring though, because I was incessantly hit for hours with an impact driver. Now the battle is over. This battle was won. want to remove those stator screws just in case. I don't see that they can be holding the machine together, but they probably are. So that's the 2 bolts for the stator plate. Okay, it's definitely moving. Definitely. Got a 14mm spanner here. Gonna take out the neutral switch. Oh crikey! Couldn't go wrong any worse, could it? That's why. This is a dirty old thing. I don't see that this is going to be holding the case together. This is what happened previously on one of mine, and it turned out that it was the shaft that was caught, rusted in here, and I had to put the crankshaft splitter right there where there's a sort of splitter recess. That's a long old thread, isn't it? Okay, that's your neutral switch. Well, I don't think it's worth hitting it with a hammer because, well, it's starting to open up quite nicely there. Well, not nicely, but if I just keep working at it gently, it would be probably be working out some of that Yamaha or whatever it is, the gasket seal. Blooming heck. Ain't easy. I want to get some movement from this end. Oh, I'm sure I haven't left any screws in this thing. It'd be typical, wouldn't it? I don't think it would move at all if it had a screw in it. What was I saying yesterday about stuff that slips being dangerous? When do you think I'm going to get my splitter tool out? Well, I got daylight through the crank. It's real hard work actually, working it backwards and forwards. It's gripping up the crankshaft end. I don't know, it's difficult because you don't know whether it's going to suddenly slip or whether it's going to snap something off, or whether you should just get the crankshaft splitter tool and just you know, lever it open that way. But I mean, obviously not lever it open by sticking something down there. Anyway, so there is daylight through the case if you get it at the right angle. It's pretty small. otherwise you'll start knocking the crank cases with this. But we're still away from that situation, I think. And it turns, look. You think you've got it in the right place and it turns back. Maybe that's what the manual was going on about. It's got to be in the right place, otherwise it won't even come apart. This is actually less of a fight than some of the other bits, or at the moment it is. It does seem to be definitely, well, it's gone from daylight to being a definite gap, and that gap's uniform all the way around it. Anyway, I'm going to switch off now because, like, firstly it's knackering, secondly it's going to take hours. I'm just going to leave this running now. Starting to sound like things are separating. Yes, the crankshaft is definitely separated. I've got to make sure that that's correct. That's preoccupied me completely, actually, I must admit. Strangely, the crank's totally separated. The hold up is back end here. It might even be that the crank will come out. No, right, maybe not. Okay. Wow, it's going to hurt in the morning, I tell you. That is, puts your body through a couple of different angles. Probably did that wrong because it should have been on one of the sides, but to be honest, just happy I didn't need the tool, you know, whatever the tool was called, splitter tool. Right, so there's my balancer shaft. Should just be able to lift it out. What's happened is the gearbox is on one side and the balancer shaft is on the other, so I'm just going to continue to separate these. And then there's my gearbox, and here's the crank and the balancer shaft in this side. I don't know if that's right, but it should just lift out, which it does. So there's your balance, and there's the wood rough that the driven gear goes on. Alright, there's nothing wrong with that. Oh. That could be the culprit straight off the barrel, right? Get ready to listen to this. Listen. They sound pretty rough, yeah. They feel very rough.